Mark, are you there, sir?
Yeah, the April Fool is you really didn't want me on the program.
Never, sir, never.
Never say that. Now, Mark, we got a lot to get to. The phone callers are coming in now, but we want to get to a couple things. First of all, you've got something coming up, a really neat thing we were talking about earlier, coming up at annual meeting, and tell us all about that, if you would.
Sure, John. Let's see, I think it's been about 6 years now that American Rifleman has put on a special session. It's a free event for the members, and we've done a lot of topics over the years. We've done U.S. infantry weapons of World War II, the M1 Garand, Battle of the Bulge, D-Day. Then last year we did a special session on the U.S. pistol, caliber 45, model of 1911. And we've modified last year's session, and we're calling it the greatest pistol in the world, 100 years of the U.S. model of 1911. And actually, the original Arms and the Man article that came out, I think, on March 29th, 1911, declared the 45 ACP model of 1911 the greatest pistol in the world. So we kind of stuck with that title. And the special session will be held on both Saturday and Sunday. It's Saturday at 2 o'clock, I believe, and Sunday at 11 in the convention center. I think room 303 to 305. And I'll start the session off with a little talk and some video and a slideshow on why 45, the reasons why the U.S. military decided that the 45 caliber cartridge was the way to go. And, a little history lesson, a little Philippine insurrection, a little Thompson-Lagarde tests. Then Phil Schreier will be joining us, and he'll talk a little bit about the trials. There's a new museum exhibit coming on the 1911 and its many descendants, and they have some very cool trials guns. And actually, for American Rifleman Television last season, the museum went down into the vault and got one of their 5 Savage Model 1907 trials pistols, and they let us shoot it. So that was
cool.
Yeah. But after that, we'll have historian Martin K.A. Morgan. He's on the History Channel all the time. Patent 360, Man Moment Machine, Shootout. But he's a good friend of mine, and he's participated in all of the American Rifleman special sessions. And he's got a great talk on the 45 as a combat pistol dating back, starting with guys like Frank Luke during World War I. He was an aviator who was shot down, and instead of letting the Germans capture him, he pulled his 45 and started popping Germans until, well, he couldn't pop Germans anymore. And then, of course, the last, and I believe he did earn the Medal of Honor, and or was awarded the Medal of Honor. A lot of guys earn it.
Yeah.
But what's really cool about this year is we did an article last year on Dr. Sidney Clark Phillips, and Dr. Phillips is a life member of the National Rifle Association, and I got a letter and a copy of his book, and it's called "You'll Be Sorry," and it's about his experiences as a Marine, and he. Dr. Phillips, if you've seen HBO's The Pacific, or if you've seen the Ken Burns series, The War, Dr. Phillips is a very genteel man from Mobile, Alabama, retired physician. And we did a TV show on him. We did a magazine article on him. And Joe Graham, my boss, said, well, why don't you invite Dr. Phillips to the annual meetings? And so he's agreed to come. And he will be one of our special guests at the session. And, Dr. Phillips turned 19 on Guadalcanal in 1942. Wow. He was in H Company, 1st Marines. He was a mortarman, pulled a lot of perimeter duty. He was on Cape Gloucester and a couple other campaigns. And just a fantastic gentleman. And we're delighted that he's going to be there.
Wow.
And then we have another special guest, too. We did the Dr. Phillips article, and I got a call from a woman in Michigan, and she get a lot of calls, and this lady, very nice, said, well, my dad still has his 45 from World War II. And I'm like, oh, great, trying to figure out, well, how am I going to get off this call, and be nice. And she said, well, my dad wrote a book. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's written several books. Like, oh, okay, have I heard of any of them? And she said, have you ever heard of a book called Currahee? I'm like, is your dad Don Burgett? And Don Burgett was in the 101st Airborne, jumped on D-Day. He was in Operation Market Garden, Battle of the Bulge, and ended his war in Berchtesgaden. And I actually sent Marty Morgan up to Michigan to interview Don because Don still has his .45. And his .45 was actually stolen from the Army by his dad, who became a Detroit policeman in 1919. And during the war, and I can't recall if it was in Normandy or if it was it was when he was still in England before they jumped. His dad mailed him his .45, and Don carried it throughout the war, and he still has it today. And Don is going to be there as well, and he's actually going to be. He did a DVD of returning to the battlefield a couple years ago, so he's going to have those on hand there in the room if some folks would like to purchase them. But not only do you get a great talk on the greatest pistol in the world, but you get to meet two men who used them in combat and did nothing less than together with their generation than save the world from evil.
Yeah.
So,
wow. That is cool, man.
All right, Mark, before we get to the calls and the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the things that the kids are talking about these days, I want to take a host prerogative here and ask you the first question. NRA ILA tonight put out an alert, and it said, ban on lead shot proposed by Iowa Natural Resources Commission. Now, why should our listeners and our viewers in Iowa especially care about this, and why should people around the country care about bans on lead shot?
Well, it's interesting. There have been... it started in the 1980s, and there's still some doubts about the science, but we ended up with steel shot for waterfowl use. And there have been some areas that have gone on on public lands in particular to say you have to use steel shot. The thing about steel is it's gotten much better, but it's still inferior to lead in terms of its ballistic performance. And unless you're dumping a lot of shot into a particular area, it's not the danger that the people that push such agendas would have you believe. And
well, who pushes these agendas?
Usually it's people that don't like hunting. They don't want you to hunt with lead. They don't want you to hunt with steel either, but they figure if they can get you to not hunt with lead, well, that's a step. And, as we found in California with the condor, bad science, an emotional appeal. I mean, nobody wants a species to go extinct, but at the same time, you have to have solid science behind it. And to be frank, most of the studies that are out there indicate that, again, unless it's in specific areas, it's not the threat that they would have you believe.
Very good. So quickly before we go, and once again, if you want to talk to Mark Keefe, get on the phone now because we only have him for a limited amount of time. We want to give the man the better part of his Friday night. It's 866 NRA News. If you have a question for the man, Mark Keefe, editor-in-chief, American Rifleman, magazine, television, he is the man to answer your firearm question. 866 NRA News. And speaking of that, Mark, before we go to the phones, tell us just give a quick overview. What's new in American Rifleman magazine and on American Rifleman television? What's going on?
Well, right now, I guess most guys now have their April issue in hand that actually has that story I was talking about, the original Arms and the Man story on the greatest pistol of the world. The interesting thing about American Rifleman is, we were kind of the first draft of firearms history since 1885. NRA has had a magazine of some sort,
Wow.
And it's kind of cool to be able to go back and pull that sort of article. Just to kind of stay on the annual meetings topic, I mean, about 1 million of our members live within driving distance of Pittsburgh. And if you are interested in what's new in firearms, virtually every gun company of any substance sets up in the exhibit hall. And if you want to go look at the new Kimber Solo, you want to see the Taurus Ranch Hand or the Smith & Wesson Judge or the Keltec KPG, you can go there and they've got them all there. And that's part of what we were trying to do with the April issue. Now, looking a little further out, the May issue, which comes out, or the June issue rather, is what I'm working on right now. May issue actually had I'm trying to remember what was on the cover of that one now.
I think it was a picture of a gun.
Probably,
Usually.
that is always a safe bet with my magazine.
I'm pretty good like that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. We've kind of built this 1911 frenzy up a little bit, and I'm working on the June issue right now, which comes out about May 15th, and we've got 5 different 1911 stories in that magazine. So we've got one on the commemoratives. We have a beautiful Colt that Colt's manufacturing company has donated to NRA on the cover. And then we have a story on the Wiley Clapp 21st century classic or 21st century combat commander. Got a story in 1911 reliability. We've got a photo essay of GIs in World War II with their 45s and Marines. A lot of Marines in that photo essay. And then we've got another story on commemorative guns. A lot of guns are being done as limited editions for this, the anniversary year. So. And we've got a history of rifle scopes. We've got a story on 20-gauge shotgun slugs. We got a lot going on.
Wow, cool. Well, let's get to the phones before we waste too much more time with you, Mr. Keefe. We appreciate you for giving us your time on a Friday night. We're going to start. We've got a question. I don't have a caller name, but I think he wants to talk about a Kel-Tec. Hey, caller, you're on the air with Mark Keefe. What's going on?
Hi, this is Matthew. Thank you for taking my call.
Hey, Matthew.
My question is concerning the Kel-Tec new 22 mag that they've come out with recently. I've seen the advertisement in the NRA Hunter. I have inquired about it, and the last person I talked to about it said that they've got 5,000 on back order.
Cool.
Is there a bureaucratic glitch, or is it just a manufacturing glitch, or is it just such a high demand that would explain the back order? Or when will it possibly be available, or can you even answer that question when I could possibly pick one up?
It's funny that you bring that up, and I just memory serves. I think that's the PMR30. It's like the 17-round 22 mag. That gun's very interesting because it uses basically 2 different operating systems on the inside in the slide, and so it can handle the pressures of a 22 Magnum. Now, here's the bad news. I don't have one yet. I've been trying to get one for about a year. And, I've been playing phone tags with the folks at Kel-Tec. I have heard that some have been in stores, but the numbers are fairly small so far. Kel-Tec, they're a company that George Kellgren is the owner and the main designer, even though another guy collaborated with him on this gun. And, he designs his guns for mass production. And I hate to say it, I just haven't had enough contact with the folks at Kel-Tec to give you a good answer on that. I'm dying to shoot the thing too because it intrigues me. It's just a neat gun. I mean, who wouldn't want a 22 mag with that kind of capacity? And 22 Magnum ammunition is more expensive than rimfire 22, but it's not as much as a box of 9mm either. So. As soon as I can get one, I'm going to test it and get it into the magazine. So,
hey, Matthew. I guess he's gone. Anyway, I just wanted to let that caller know if Mark Keefe cannot get a gun to test, then they're really on serious back order.
Or it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
No, they exist. The problem is normally people are pretty good about getting them to me because I get them in and then I put them in a magazine for 1.8 million to read about. So you'd think it wouldn't be rocket science, but
you think?
Yeah, but sometimes companies get busy or there's a glitch, and the other thing too is some companies. Not Kel-Tec. Kel-Tec's they're a solid company. They make affordable guns that are brilliantly engineered. But there are some companies that won't send us guns because they know we're going to shoot them. I mean, they know we're going to test them. We're going to actually shoot groups with them, and we're going to chronograph them, and we're going to use them for their intended purpose. And sometimes people don't like what we have to say about them. So,
all right, let's move on, Mr. Keefe, and talk to Gregory. Gregory, you're on with Mark Keefe.
Yes, sir. I got kind of an obscure question.
Okay.
Back in the days when somebody got out of territorial prison, they were given a horse, a gun, and a $20 gold piece. nobody can answer when that changed, when it was illegal for a felon to own a gun.
Well, that's an obscure also.
Wow. Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I hate to say this. Normally, I'm pretty good at obscure questions. I don't know what kind of gun it was either.
I think it was a 45 revolver.
Probably, yeah. Hopefully, it wasn't a Merlin Holbert, because that would have been a pretty good deal. But certainly in 1968, but also there was various legislation passed in the 1930s that made it a bad thing for felons to have firearms. But man, I'd have to look that up.
Well, thank you, sir. That was a good. I'm gonna say it
It's a cool question. You kind of like that kind of like old Westy type stuff, but
Phil
that's
Schreier
tough.
could probably tell you the gun though. He probably can't tell you, when in Yuma territory, they decided.
And
he's probably got 10 of them too.
I'm gonna say I know you're good friends with Phil,
been to
so
his house.
I'm gonna pull this out on everyone. And let me tell you about that gun. Someday, Mark, I want to do for Curators Corner. I want to do a Phil Schreier impression contest. We'll have an impression of Phil. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Nope. I've known him for 30 years. I do a pretty good one, but not tonight.
Nice.
Let's move on to talk to Bill. Bill, you're on with Mark Keefe with American Rifleman. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, great. Good evening, gentlemen. And it's a camera obscura question again.
It's obscure question night.
I have a vintage Vietnam era night vision scope. It's just a huge clunky thing, but it's been reconditioned. It works nicely. And the one thing that I have a problem with is my crosshair. It's actually a T-bar. It isn't on the bubble. It's a little bit turned sideways. And I'm wondering, is there a way that I can get to the glass that little be able to turn?
Yeah, I know slightly less about Vietnam night vision than I do about Yuma territorial revolvers.
Cool. Well, then I guess it's on to the next obscure question then.
Well, if you can find one more obscure, I'd be interested in that.
Oh, I like that. Maybe I get a little ribbon.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, Bill. Let's.
Actually, there are a couple of companies that specialize in repairing vintage rifle scopes. But I got to tell you, I've never had me ask about repair on Vietnam era military night vision. Hey, I mean, we've got a lot of folks interested in a lot of things, but that one, after 21 years on the magazine, has just never come up.
Let me, Mark, we're talking, this is, you're listening to Cam and Company and watching Cam and Company. I'm at NRAnews.com, Sirius XM Patriot, Cameron Gray, John Pop sitting in for Cam Edwards, talking to Mark Keefe, editor-in-chief of American Rifleman. Mark, a Twitter question for you from the Twitter land. The guy's asking that since between SHOT and the NRA meeting, is there anything that hasn't happened since SHOT that will happen at NRA meeting, and what's coming out in the NRA meeting that would be new for people?
Yeah, there's at least one really, really, really big announcement that I am prohibited from releasing.
Cool.
But there will be a very significant handgun introduction at the NRA show. And it's funny, the sort of dynamic of everyone releasing all of their new guns at the SHOT Show has kind of worn off, because the gun manufacturers and people like me play this great game where we ask them a couple of months before the SHOT Show about their new products so that we can try and run some sort of SHOT Show introduction story. When, of course, it takes us 3 months to, do the magazine, get it printed, and then get it mailed. So by the time we're dealing with it, it's already 3 months old. And then usually they also will introduce a gun at SHOT Show and then, of course, not have it until September. Which is awkward sometimes. But what a lot of companies are doing is introducing new products at the NRA show. They'll do mid-year launches or soft launches, as they say. Sadly, the really juicy stuff I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But I can.
It's a cool pre-sale.
Oh yeah, no, most assuredly. And there is some great stuff, and I wish I could talk about it, but I've been asked not to, and I try and respect confidence.
Of course.
And but certainly for the coming, keep your eye out on AmericanRifleman.org. We'll we'll be blogging and putting posts up every day of the new product announcements and that sort of thing. And you guys will be there too, so you'll probably be on air with some of these things going, oh, Mark Keefe knew about that. And, and that's the way it usually goes.
So that's what he was talking about. By the way, if you want to talk to Mark Keefe, now's the time to call 866-NRA-NEWS. If you want to get on with your hopefully not so obscure gun question tonight. And we've got a question. I'm just looking at the screening, Mark. This one doesn't look obscure, but the way it's going tonight, who knows? Maybe this is the caller's version of their April Fool prank. But
this could be like Triple Jeopardy.
Yeah, let's talk to Greg. Greg, you're on with Mark Keefe.
Hi. I want to pick up a 9mm semi-auto here real soon, and would like to know your opinion on what 9mm semi-auto might be the best to purchase.
Well, it depends on what you want to use it for. Are you looking for a gun that you can use for concealed carry? Are you looking for a gun that you're just going to shoot and have fun with? Are you looking for a personal protection gun?
Well, I'm looking for mainly concealed carry and personal protection.
Okay. That limits the field a little more. There's a current trend that's developed. We had a big run to 380 pistols over the past 2 years, and now you're seeing significant new advancements in 9mm small concealable pistols. You've got guns like there's the new SIG 290, is it? I don't even have one of those yet. They gave the prototype to the guys at Guns and Ammo, but we like to wait for the production guns because that way we know they're going to make them, and we don't tell 1.8 million people about things they can't buy.
It's a good
awesome.
Public service.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, no. You do this long enough, guys, and you learn some lessons. But no, if you're looking for, are you looking for an ultra compact? You're looking for something with a little more size to it, sir? I mean, what are you interested in?
We lost him, so
we lost
yeah,
him. Well,
yeah.
I'll just make it up for him then.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are ultra compact 9mm such as the Ruger LC9, the new SIG. There's a Taurus in their slim line that are very small and extremely concealable. One of the most important considerations for concealment is the width of the pistol. And, if you have a gun that takes a double-column magazine, you get increased magazine capacity, but it's still kind of a thick gun, and it's a little more difficult to conceal easily. But there is a trend going on now with compact 9mm where they're really full-size pistols that they've cut the grips off a little bit, and they've removed a little barrel length so that they're a little easier to conceal. But they have they could take the same magazine as the full size. For an example, you have the Ruger SR9 and the Springfield XDM, and you can get compact versions of those gun in 9mm. That the XD, I was just playing with it the other day. It's a 14-round magazine instead of a 19-round magazine. But if you want to use it just for personal protection in the home or just going to the range, then you have a magazine with a collar on the bottom of it. So instead of a stubby grip frame, you get a full-size grip frame with a larger magazine, depending on the circumstances that you're going to use the gun in.
Very good. Let's go to Jeff in Arizona. Jeff, you're on with Mark Keefe. Jeff, you're on with Mark Keefe.
Hi. I have a question about an antique rifle that I got from my grandpa. It's the Winchester Centennial Edition 30-30 rifle, and it's 24-karat gold-plated, and it's still in the box, never been fired, has all the tags, but the gold plating from being in the box is starting to wear off the butt plate. And I'm wondering, is that something that I should maybe have restored, or would it be better just to leave it?
Yeah, you're entering a very tricky and interesting category of firearms. There have been a lot of commemorative Winchesters over the years, and the fact that it hasn't been fired is very, very good because when you shoot those guns, they lose value very rapidly. In terms of restoring the gold, to be honest, you ought to look that version up. I don't even know if I have a copy handy here in the Blue Book of Gun Values. Probably the best $50 anybody else can spend.
It's awesome.
Because not only do you get what the guns are worth, but you also get dates of manufacture, rarity, and all sorts of things. And I think somebody stole the Blue Book from my home library. But
Mrs. Keefe, why I oughta.
Yeah, to the moon, Alice. Or Lynn. But the thing about those guns is often the cost of having it replated might far exceed whatever gain in condition that you would get with such a gun. When you said Centennial, I thought it was a Winchester 1876, which is actually a very comparatively rare and desirable Winchester. The Centennial editions of the Model 94, which your gun obviously is if it's in 30-30, some of those commemorative editions are quite valuable, but a lot of them really don't appreciate greatly in value. So it would depend on which particular commemorative that was and whether the value of it would justify the cost.
Very good. Hey, Mark, a quick question for you. While we got a bunch of calls in the queue here, but you're talking about SHOT Show and less people introducing everything there. I guess it's as much of a question and a comment. My comment of being at a couple of SHOT Shows is there is so much going on that I think it's advantageous to some of the firearms manufacturers to introduce new products at a different time, to say NRA show, because it'll just get more attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the other thing you have to remember is the SHOT Show is an industry trade show. As a guy, Vince Abrams from Gammo, he came from consumer products and is now in the airgun and optics business, and he's doing a good job. But he said, man, I just don't get the SHOT Show. You spend all this money and you fly all your people there and you buy this expensive booth just to show your competitors what your products are. And a lot of the dealers go to the SHOT Show and that kind of thing. But at the NRA show, it's a smaller show, and if you have something really cool, you get kind of the buzz around the room, and it's easier for the product to not get lost.
Yeah, and it's exactly it. You're a bigger fish, and not to say the NRA show is a smaller pond, but it's just the SHOT Show is the SHOT Show for dealers. But you do something big at the NRA show, I think more people are going to notice it.
Yeah, and especially at an NRA show in Pittsburgh. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not in the membership division, and I don't pretend to have a crystal ball, but I think a lot of NRA members are interested in coming to that show.
Oh, I think so, too. We're getting ready. Hey, Mark, speaking of getting ready, we need to break. Can we hold you for one more short segment to do a couple more calls?
Of course, John.
All right, folks. You heard the man. Mark Keefe has extended his stay here, so get on the phone now, 866-NRA News. We'll have time for just a couple more calls when we get back, because we need to let Mark go. We are joined by Mark Keefe, editor-in-chief of American Rifleman magazine. I'm sorry, Mark. I get so excited when I hear the Blues Brothers. Thank you back there, Jim, for doing that for me. I appreciate that.
I prefer to be Elwood.
Nice. And I'll be Jake. And Ron says, a couple talkbacks before we go back to the phones. Ron in South Carolina says, gentlemen, read Keltec PMR30. The original release date was scheduled for June 2010, but they had some production problems that pushed the date out. Then they had a 2-week shutdown for Christmas. The back orders are for real, as I've been inquiring about the pistol since March 2010. I've had several FFLs looking for one that I can buy at a price close to the suggested retail price of $415. He says, I've seen the PMR30 on Gunbroker, but the prices are what the market will bear. Guess I'll wait until production floods the market and the price comes down. So.
Yeah, once George Kelgren gets flowing, believe me, he can make guns in quantity. So
very good. And one more talk back for you. One from Rich. He's asking about when we were saying before, Mark, about the 9mm and the 380, and he's heard a lot in the past about stopping power of the 380 and the 9mm versus some of the bigger stuff, the 40 and the 45. What are your thoughts on that as far as a conceal and carry weapon or a home protection weapon?
Yeah, the 380 for many years was thought perfectly adequate by European police agencies for shooting people, and for a while, early in the 20th century, it was thought to be just fine. But really, in personal protection circles, it went out of favor until very recently. And in particular, Colonel Cooper and his renaissance of the 45 ACP, and calling them pipsqueak cartridges and that sort of thing. Generally, it's accepted that 9mm is an adequate cartridge. But being 3.55, obviously shooting something or someone who deserves it with a 45 is probably a better idea. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is 45s, even the compact ones, are fairly big guns. And for carrying, size matters, weight matters in particular. And thickness matters. I mean, a 45 pistol, just by the laws of physics, has to be thicker than a 9mm pistol. A 380 pistol can be thinner and smaller than a 9mm pistol. So really, it's a series of compromises as you go down in caliber. Plenty of people have been successfully warded off from doing naughty things by being shot with 380s. Some people shot with 380s have just gotten angry. There's no way to tell how a particular attack is going to end, regardless of what caliber is used. But generally, the baseline is a plus P 38 special in a revolver. Or even a standard 38 special load with a good defensive bullet, and then the 9mm. When you go down to 380, you are giving up terminal performance, for the sake of size and portability. And the thing I tell people is, hey, I like big, 5-inch 1911s a lot. I have a couple of them, but mostly they just pull my pants down. So J-frame or one of the little 9s or 380s is a better choice because you're more likely to carry it. And if you have a gun and don't need it, that's great. But if you need a gun and don't have it, that's awkward. So
very good. Let's go back to the phones, and let me see. We've got Dan in Columbus. Dan, you're on with Mark Keefe.
Hey, man. Good evening. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
I was just calling to see if I could possibly get any advice on a reasonable expectation from an NFAL 308. My buddy and I are assembling one. And if we, lead sled it up, what can we reasonably expect? And I mean, I know that all depends on the barrel, and it's a new lower, but
so you guys are building an FNFAL?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay. Is it an FM? Is it a Brazilian gun, or what kind of parts are we looking at here?
The lower is a metric, and the upper end is probably either going to be an M-Bell or Austrian.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
My buddy's going to hit the machine gun thing. I can't make it. I'm having hernia surgery next week. Dang, and I'm going to miss the machine gun shoot and
yeah, and you're going to have a really painful surgery.
Wow.
So, I don't envy you this week. But, it's funny. The FNFAL, I've had very mixed results with those guns. I've shot original Belgian guns. I've shot military guns from various countries. And I think we as a nation were terribly spoiled by the accuracy of the M14. It sort of ruined everyone for the FAL. The FAL, I think, is probably as reliable ergonomically. I like the FAL more. And I've owned 3 of them. I currently own none of them, and one of them I'm not going to tell you the manufacturer, but I called it the Falklands War Commemorative Edition because I think it had a British lower and an RG upper. And it was a 6-inch gun. I tried everything. I gave up. But at the same token, I've had guns built off of the Austrian parts or the Austrian drawings from DSA Arms that have done extremely well. Conventionally, I have found FAL's group. They basically produce 2 groups, depending on which side of the magazine it's feeding from. Sometimes those groups are close together. Sometimes they're far apart. And there might be another reason, but that's sort of the thesis I came up with. And conventionally, I found them to be, 2.5-inch guns usually. We've had some that have been close to a minute of angle, and then again, I had a pie plate gun, it was like I had bought a bad Ruger Mini 14. It frustrated me greatly.
I hope you're all taking notes because there will be a quiz after Professor Keefe leaves. Mark, thank you very much. We'll let you get on with your Friday night. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to those neat seminars you talked about at annual meeting and all the other great work you guys do at American Rifleman. Thank you so much for being here with us on NRA.
You're welcome. And if you guys are going to be set up out there, if you'd like, I'll see if Dr. Phillips and Mr. Burgett might want to come on and see you.
Oh, we'd love it.
That'd be very cool.
We'd love it. Thank you, sir. Mark Keefe, thanks for being with us tonight.
Good night, guys.